they can be like a hemophiliac. Did you know that? Yeah, and it tends to be I saw that on a veterinarian program, and this vet was going to do surgery on his leg because he had a big like tumor coming out. And as soon as she cut into him, he just one little cut, he started bleeding profusely, and she says, "Oh, you have a hemophiliac horse." And so I had, as much as I've been around horses, and I never knew that.
My shoer told me one. I don't know if you're familiar with summer sores. It's very disgusting.
Yeah, it's from those flies.
And the owner, out of desperation, she dealt with it for X amount of years, and finally got talked into having it removed, and it killed him. He bled out.
Yeah.
They couldn't stop the bleeding. They would have been better off leaving it alone, but they probably didn't know. Mike and I found a really good solution to the summer sores, because the other horse that was poisoned with the same stuff, he's reacting differently. And what was I going to say with that? He had all the summer sores, but none of mine are bleeders, thank goodness.
Yeah, thank goodness for that. Yeah.
I don't know how common it is. I'm going to think that it's not real common.
It's not. She said it tends to show up in white horses.
Gray. That's a recessive, very sensitive gene, and then your chestnuts are also sensitive.
Yeah.
They look like Lucy, but there's a couple different colors or shades of chestnut, and I'm going to go on an assumption that they're both equally sensitive, whether it's liver or red, but I could be wrong on that.
Interesting.
It is interesting. It's just yeah. I'm always learning.
Yeah, well, we'll have to talk on the phone sometime.
Yeah, I just got a runaway horse here. One guy just took a hike. Oh.
There's enough of this.
Yeah, he just went out to the ring.
You know, I could comment on something you said, Claudia, if you're interested. Well, you talked about how the Jews still are doing the animal sacrifices, and you're trying to get it stopped. Well, anyway, I don't know if you knew that the Jews are doing everything in their power to set up the rebuilding of Solomon's temple over in Jerusalem. And that's one of the big conflagrations over in Israel, is because when Trump moved the U.S. Embassy, that was a step toward getting the temple rebuilt. And so what the Jews are trying to do is they're trying to get the property that's owned by the Muslims. They're trying to get the property, and they want to rebuild the temple on the site of the Muslims' famous mosque over there. And when they rebuild the temple, they want to start doing the animal sacrifices just like they did 2,000 years ago or 3,000 years ago. And so there's absolutely no way that the Jews are going to stop doing the sacrifices. They're going to bring in more sacrifices when they get their temple rebuilt. And that's a real big issue over in the Middle East between the Jews and the Muslims. It's a point of conflagration. However, there is something very humorous that most Jews are unaware of, and that is the fact that you've heard of the Wailing Wall over in Jerusalem, right? And you know, where you have all these devout Jews, they show up to the Wailing Wall and they put their hats on, and they get down and pray to they stick their head up against the wall and pray to God and do all these prayers, and they write all these prayers and notes and stick them in the cracks in the wall, and they're the real devout rabbis and all that. Well, I can tell you something really, really funny. and what's interesting is the Jews believe that Wailing Wall is part of the old Solomon's Temple. So when Herod came in, around the time of Christ and destroyed the temple, they think that Wailing Wall is part of the old temple, part of the old foundational wall. Well, the truth of the matter is, when the Romans went into Jerusalem to take over the rule of that area of the Middle East, they built a fort, and they lived in this fort, and it was high up. It was the high point in Jerusalem. It was the highest part, and when Herod left, when the Romans left Israel, they left the fortification there, the walls to their fort, and that Wailing Wall is really has nothing to do with the Temple of Solomon. It is a wall of the Roman fort, and the Jews don't realize that. So in a way, it's really, really funny,
Tongue in cheek there.
Well, see, that's what the Jews believe in, and there was you can go on YouTube and watch this. There's a group of Christians that went over there, and they took all the Old Testament Bible verses about how if the Jews disobeyed God, that their temple would be totally destroyed, and there wouldn't be one stone upon another, and the temple was in the city of David. Well, they proved beyond any reasonable doubt. I mean, on this YouTube, they show you that the Temple of David is about a mile south of that Wailing Wall, and they show the field. It's just a field of, like a desolate field, and that's where Solomon's temple was destroyed, and it's just a desolate area. And these guys went in there, and they did actually find some old stones from the ancient temple, but it has nothing to do with the Wailing Wall. The Wailing Wall is part of, and they show that the Wailing Wall was really part of the fortification. And what was interesting was they showed how there used to be a ramp that ran from the Roman fort down. It was about a mile long passageway that actually went down to Solomon's temple, and remnants of that are still there. It's on the hill. It's a ramp from the fort, which is high on the hill, down to the temple, which is at the bottom of the hill. And it is so conclusively proves that the Wailing Wall is not any part of Solomon's old temple, that it's, well, when I say funny, I don't mean humorous, but it's really weird that how could these Jews that think they're so right in everything be so far off? But they must have been tap-lined over the years to believe that Roman fortification really was their temple, to keep egging them on towards their belief in the reptilian gods or whatever it was. You know what I mean? This Christian group found the ark too. That's no secret anymore. You just go on YouTube and look for the ark. They know exactly where it is and everything. That was uncovered also. So that's not a secret anymore. Although a lot of people would have you believe that, God took it back to heaven and, it's not here on the planet anymore. But it's readily available. It's being protected by a group of Jews.
Yeah, well, one of these days they're all going to find out that Jesus didn't die for everybody else. He died because of his own ignorance.
Yep.
That's right. Welcome to the Bob and Sandy Show. It's Sunday, the 25th of 2018. And our weather, I'll just give a little weather update here, is about 29, 30 degrees. And the sky is cloudy, but we have no snow or rain, which is great. And south of us, southern Wisconsin, like Madison and northern Illinois, are supposed to get a really bad snowstorm, about 6 to 8 inches. So I'm I'm thankful we don't have that right now. Very grateful. And I'd like to start out with a little experience here I had, and I think it really shows the real side and the truth for what I'm gonna tell you about. I have a musician friend who lives in the Chicago area, and he's been in the corporation for 50 years, like I had been. And he's always been very, 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 very sick. A lot of times he couldn't go to seminars because he had pneumonia, or he had double pneumonia, or something else was wrong with him. He is the people who can't eat wheat, celiac disease person, which evidently he was born with. So he's a little bit on the thinner side, but a fabulous, fabulous musician. Playing the piano and singing. The first time I saw him was at a seminar, and he was on stage playing one of his compositions, what he composed, and he also sang. Later years, he didn't sing. Something happened to his voice, but he was, and still is, always playing the piano. Now, a couple weeks back, I was thinking about him when I was singing the New You. Now, we sing the New You 15 minutes in the morning and 15 minutes at night, or during the day as you're working or walking or shopping or cleaning, whatever. You can sing the New You, which shows you the truth, and it shows you the real side of things, the all is. And I viewed this person, and he was crawling on the ground in a darkened area. His body was rather grayish, and he had these marks on him like tap lines. Although I didn't see any on him, he had these really deep round divots in his skin with raised outer part of it, and he was just covered with it, and he didn't look good at all. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, did he die? And this is where he is.
You mentioned this is a dream.
No, that wasn't a dream.
Oh,
I'm going into the other part of that, and that's not a dream either.
Oh, you saw him in person?
Yeah. Anyway, Bob thought it was a dream, but it wasn't. And so I called the other day to see how he was, and his wife answered the phone, and she talked to me. He didn't talk to me. And she said, I'm not home. And I just said I was just calling to see how he was. And she said, well, I have to hang up now. And she did. And anyway, I thought, what the heck is that? Because I've known her for 50 years too. So I start walking into the kitchen, and my hands started shaking like I couldn't control the shaking of them. And that's really not like me. So I sat down to sing the New You because I had to get out of whatever this was. And anyway, as this is about my friend, the man, the musician, I sat down to sing, as I said, sing the New You. And all of a sudden I see the man, and he is crawling again, and he's in this horrible state. His body's gray. He looks just horrible. Okay. All of a sudden, Rebisar comes in on my left side, and he is tall in this experience. And he is wearing his red Rebisar outfit, which I haven't seen since I've been singing the New You. But I think this time it was for my friend who is still in the corporation, so he recognized him. And Rebisar bends down to me, because he's pretty tall in this, and he said, I want you to take Peter's hand. And so I went down, and I got Peter's hand, and I helped him stand up. In the meantime, Paul Twitchell comes in on Peter's right side. Now, there's Paul Twitchell, there's Peter and I are holding hands, and then there's Rebisar on our left. and I started singing New You to Peter. Now, we always sang together. I've sang on stage with him, and when we practice, he sings with me and stuff, even though his voice isn't that good anymore. But anyway, he started singing New You with me. And Rebisar says, come on, I want to show you something. And so all of a sudden, we're zooming somewhere, and we land by a beautiful, beautiful, round, sparkling lake. It's just gorgeous. And behind the lake, surrounding the lake, part of the lake, are blue and pink mountains. And Rebisar points to a house high in the mountains, and he said, this is his home. And all of a sudden, we're in his home. And Rebisar says, we have given him a white grand piano so he can continue his music. And there is a beautiful tufted leather seat that you can sit on, and the piano itself was sort of in the middle of the room, and the room was partly furnished. I want to say it wasn't modern, wasn't ancient, it was just nicely furnished. And then I was back from the experience, and I'm thinking, why did he die? That this happened? And so I'm still thinking, geez, I really want to know. And so this morning I got a call from his wife, and the funny thing is, this morning Peter's doing better. And I think this is really the all is coming in, and for him to sing the New You during this experience was nothing short of fantastic. So it was a really interesting experience with the all is. And we're answered any questions we have. We're shown the truth of what is really happening. So I just am so grateful for all the experiences we get when we sing the New You, and sometimes unexpected experiences, which are always nice. I always try to see the New You in everything that happens during the day with the all is. Sometimes I don't see it, but I try to. Anyway, I was reading the other day on the internet. I was looking up some musical things, and come to find out, Claudia told me about the magnetic resonance of the earth that has a singing sound. So I had to go to listen to it to see what it sounded like. And I did, and I also brought up other planets and the sounds that they have. Now, years and years and years ago, Paul Twitchell wrote about each planet having its own sound. And I've always been interested in that because I'm interested in music, and it's part of the all is. And I found out that the Utah can't even talk. Rock arches also sing. Evidently, they sing at different frequencies, and they use their arch like a guitar string, and as the wind comes through, they vibrate to different sounds. And I thought that was so interesting. What sound is around us? Sometimes we're not aware of it. I also found out, now this is really interesting, there is a device out there that puts out fires with sound. It's called a sonic fire extinguisher. And I was amazed. So these couple of guys, younger guys, actually inverted a regular fire extinguisher and put sound through it. And the device evidently drowns out fires with a low frequency sound, a low frequency bass sound. And this bass sound, I listened to it. Of course, it sounded like heavy metal rock, so I didn't listen too long. But they demonstrated how this vibration puts out fires. And I thought that was so interesting. Things are really demonstrated to us all around us. We just have to be aware and find out more. And it said that the right frequency of focused sound waves can remove oxygen from air molecules. And they said right now it only works on small fires, like if you have a small fire in your kitchen or maybe your grill caught on fire or whatever. It has to be a small fire. If you're putting a fire out in your yard from a campfire or something, it would work on that. And I don't know, coming from a music background, I just found it amazing, although I don't like the bass sound at all. Some of the planets, as their sound, I listened to Pluto and Neptune and Jupiter and Saturn. They all had different sounds. Some sounded whistly, some sounded sort of like waves of the wind. Jupiter had prettier sounds, a more variety of sounds within itself. Listen to a couple of the moon sounds, one of Jupiter's moons and one of Neptune's moons. Saturn didn't sound too bad. The Earth had more of a whistling sound. So I'm sure they all do their job.